Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And it is August 25th, my anniversary. It's my anniversary, looking down at my hands. It's my anniversary with my husband. 8 years married today and 12 years since our very first date. And I'm very, very excited. It is currently 11:23 a.m. My husband's trying to get off work maybe a little bit early so we can go to the pool and hang out. It's supposed to be 91 degrees today and beautiful. It is like no clouds. Every time I say that, it starts getting cloudy, but it's like no clouds, beautiful outside today, sunny skies. I'm getting ready to go get, I already got my pumpkin spice latte this morning, the first one of the year, and did a review of it with a little special surprise over on my review channel. But I also am going to go get an iced coffee to take to the pool with me, and then I'm going to go to the pool here in just a little bit. But, so yeah, I'm going to go do that, and then I'm going to go to the pool, and then we're having dinner tonight at a restaurant that we love here in town. Kind of a little romantic dinner, you know, all that. And then Alex has to work tomorrow, so he's going to have to go to bed somewhat early. And, this weekend, he's taking off Thursday and Friday, and then we're going to have a 4-day weekend together. A very romantical 4-day weekend, because we usually go to Las Vegas every year for our anniversary, and this year we're not. So we're excited to spend some time here as having a little staycation. I also want to say that all of my new merch is up on my merch shop, which is listed below, so go check it out. I have Be Too Much over there, and Family Friendly, Good Judy. I have all kinds of stuff over there that's new. You guys can go check it out. The True Crime Book Club has merch over there now that Mel and I put together, and I've been working with somebody, and it's just been very, very exciting for me to come up with this new stuff and these new designs. So please go check it out. It's listed below. And I thought today we would just get right into reading some meditations. I brought Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie and The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie. So let's try, let's go in here. If August 25th is about a step, then we are going to just read, I'm just gonna randomly pick. Here, let's go into the back and look up, because she has it listed underneath here, I think. Let's look up relationships, since today is my anniversary. And we will pick a meditation about relationships. My glasses are so dirty. But anyway, let's see, relationships. They're all kind of like really sad ones. Okay, let's look up maybe love. How about, okay, love, opening ourselves to, April 23rd. Let's see what that one is. April 23rd, opening ourselves to love. Allowing ourselves to receive love is one of the greatest challenges we face in recovery. Many of us have blocked ourselves from receiving love. We may have lived with people who used love to control us. They would be there for us, but at the high price of our freedom. Love was given or withheld to control us and have power over us. It was not safe for us to receive love from these people. We may have gotten accustomed to not receiving love, not acknowledging our need for love, because we lived with people who had no real love to give. At some point in recovery, we acknowledge that we too want and need to be loved. We may feel awkward with this need. Where do we go with it? What do we do? Who can give us love? How can we determine who is safe and who isn't? How can we let others care for us without feeling trapped, abused, frightened, and unable to care for ourselves? We will learn. The starting point is surrender to our desire to be loved, our need to be nurtured and loved. We will grow confident in our ability to take care of ourselves with people. We will feel safe enough to let people care for us. We will grow to trust our ability to choose people who are safe and who can give us love. We may need to get angry first, angry that our needs have not been met. Later, we can become grateful to those people who have shown us what we don't want, the ones who have assisted us in the process of believing we deserve love, and the ones who come into our life to love us. We are opening up like flowers. Sometimes it hurts as the petals push open. Be glad. Our heart is opening up to the love that is. Our heart is opening up to the love I can't read today. Our heart is opening up to the love that is and will continue to be there for us. Surrender to the love that is there for us. Surrender to the love that is there for us, to the love that people, the universe, and our higher power send our way. Surrender to love without allowing people to control us or keep us from caring for ourselves. Start by surrendering to love for yourself. What a beautiful meditation. You know, I think I can only speak from my own experience. And I think, you know, like growing up in a toxic environment with an alcoholic mother, I was very confused at times, you know, when I was growing up. I was actually talking to my best friend today about something similar to this. You know, I never doubted for 1 second when I was growing up that my mother loved me. And definitely not with my father or my stepmother, other people in my life, my aunt and uncle, you know, grandparents, family members, friends of my family and things like that. I grew up in a very loving culture, you know, where I heard the words, I love you a lot, and hugs were given. And, you know, when I walked in a room, like Toni Morrison says, people's eyes did light up. But there were those times that it didn't as well. And with my mom, it didn't feel like love was conditional. It felt like I didn't know what mom I was walking into at the end of the day. So I could be walking into a mom that everything was about me, and we were Little House on the Prairie, you know, like having dinner and watching a TV show, and then she would read to me before I went to bed. Or it could be that mom was kind of like the end of the day had come at 6 o'clock. Does that make sense? Because she'd been drinking during the day or something like that, which was rare, but it did happen, you know, and probably not as rare as I'd like to think that it is. It probably happened more often than I really, you know, when I realized, because I can remember my mom would hang out with like her girlfriends or something, you know, and then like they would leave at 5 o'clock after, you know, my mom was just kind of like, you know, with alcoholics, like one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So she had just kind of gotten started, you know, and then she would put something together for dinner and make sure I was fed, but then that was kind of the end of the night, like, you know. And so as I got older, you know, it was hard for me, especially when, you know, I would go on dates with people or start, you know, dating people that, like, I didn't feel like I was a priority, or, you know, in the past, like people that might have had their own issues as well, substance-wise or with other things. And so I would feel like, you know, people are always putting me, you know, and this has been like, happened with friends of mine in my life too, you know, where I always felt like, yes, I do believe that this person loves me, and it's not conditional necessarily, but do they love drinking more than me? Where does that come from? That comes from, you know, when I was younger and I was growing up, that I never necessarily felt like maybe I was the priority. You know, when my mom got sober, I think one of the hardest things, this is a good thing, but one of the hardest things for me was, you know, my mom made it very, very clear that why she got sober. And the reason that my mom got sober was my Uncle Dave had his first heart attack, and that was, so I'm 48, and I got sober when I was 22, so that was, well, I'm 25 and a half years, so it's 25 years ago this summer, my uncle had his first heart attack, and he was a lifelong heart patient, and it was right before my cousin got married. And so this was her 25th wedding anniversary as well this summer. And my mom got sober. Her sobriety birthday was June 2nd. And she said she got sober because of what had happened with my uncle, and that whether she lived another year, another 10 years, however long she lived, she wanted to live sober. She didn't want to live controlled by drinking. It didn't have anything to do with me getting sober. It didn't have anything to do with me, you know. Yes, her relationship with me later, she would say, like, God, we have like the most incredible relationship. Our relationship has improved so much because you got sober and I got sober and whatever. But I wasn't the reason that she got sober. I don't really care in retrospect, you know. I don't really care that she didn't say, like, I got sober because of you. And like, you know, recently just talking on here, and then I talked about it with, you know, my sponsor and my best friend, I had this kind of aha moment, you know, where I was like, I think I was talking in a vlog maybe one night or something, that because I was in counseling a lot when I was growing up, that I kind of wonder if I had ever said to a counselor, like, I have a problem with my mom's drinking, and the counselor had, you know, had me sit down and say that to my mom, I do believe that my mom would have got sober a lot earlier. I don't know that that first time hearing that would have done it, but she wouldn't have dismissed it. I know my mom, or I knew I knew what my mom was like. My mom cherished being a mother more than anything. She took a lot of pride in it. And I know that for her, she already, acknowledged that she had a drinking problem. She did that years before she ever got sober. Like, when I was in junior high, she knew that she had a drinking problem. She just didn't know how to do anything about it or really want to do anything about it, you know? Like many alcoholics, she lived in denial. And, but I think that if I had looked across from her and said, like, it scares me, I don't like it, I want you to quit drinking, because I did say those things to her at home when she was drinking. You know, I would pour the alcohol out and be like, I'm so tired of you drinking or whatever. But I never had those conversations with her when she was sober. And I never had those conversations with her in any kind of, with a counselor sitting in the room, or where there was somebody that was facilitating that. A facilitated conversation. I never had that conversation with her, I think my mom would have looked at me and said, like, I didn't realize, and I don't want to be that mother for you. And I think she really would have done something to try to change that. I don't take responsibility for that, and I don't feel guilty for that. I think that was her responsibility and her role as a parent. But, like, then to have her, because one of my issues today sometimes is, like, when I have friends of mine that can't, like, get sober and stay sober for their kids, and I know this is a personal issue for me, but I'm like, if you can't do it for your kids, who can you do it for? Like, and sometimes small kids, too. Like, do it for your kids, like, so when my mom got sober and it didn't have anything to do with me, I thought, here we go again. It's like, alcohol is a priority and it's not me, even though later, like, that obviously helped our relationship. At the time, I kind of felt like it would be nice if you would look at me and say, well, I am getting sober because I want to be a better mom to you. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been nice to hear. But that wasn't the case, and that's okay. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, it is okay, because I got the gifts that came as her receiving the gift of recovery, which it is a gift. It is a gift. Many people are never introduced to recovery. But I think, like, and she's not the only person that drank in my family in my life. My aunt was a heavy drinker as well, and a lot of my mom's close friends were heavy drinkers. And I always just felt like the drinking, and it's hard for me to call it partying because it was never partying, even though it seemed like a party environment. Like, it was always cocktail hour and things like that, but it was very subdued and very classy, but it didn't minimize, just because somebody drinks wine instead of hard liquor doesn't make him any less of an alcoholic. You know what I mean? Like, okay. But, or if you're a beer drinker instead of a hard liquor, it doesn't make you any less of an alcoholic. Just because it's done in a classy environment and candles are lit and people are dressed nice doesn't make them any less of alcoholics. And I felt from that. So I think I carried that into adulthood. And I think I often even, probably, unfortunately, to the people that I was with that really cared about me, I think I tested relationships. I tried to sabotage them because I didn't believe that I was good enough. I always believed, well, there's got to be something else in your life that's more important than me. And in fact, I would ask people that I dated those questions, like, well, what's more important than me? I have to be number one, Well, I don't think that was necessarily self-worth or self-love to say I should be the most important thing in your life. No, I don't know that I necessarily feel that way, Like, my husband is very well understood that my sobriety comes first, because if I don't have my sobriety, I don't have a relationship. I don't have anything in my life, a career or my relationships with other people. I don't have the ability to pay bills. I don't have the ability to function, right? So who am I then to say to somebody else, well, your family shouldn't come first, or this shouldn't come first? I just want to kind of matter to somebody, today. And this is the thing, there's a difference between being a priority and being picked over. I felt growing up that I was picked over by my mother drinking. And if you've ever come up in that kind of environment, of a substance abusing environment, you'll know what I'm talking about. Is that it's not that you don't feel like a priority, which I guess that's what I just said, but, like, what I mean by it is you feel like you're picked over, right? Like, I'm important, but I'm not as important as drinking. Because if you loved me enough, then you would stop drinking. Well, what I know today is that there's no love in the world that'll stop somebody from drinking or using a substance. There just isn't. Like, if love was that strong, and I wish it was, there would be no need for 12-step programs. There would be no need for, treatment programs or 12-step programs or counseling or anything, right? There would be no need for that because love would be enough. But love is not enough. And so I think, we have to go into relationships. I learned a very valuable lesson. I'm not going to read the other book because this is getting long, but I learned a very valuable lesson when I was actually in early sobriety. I got into a relationship, like, literally the week out of treatment. And he was a great guy. He didn't live here, but to me, on paper, he looked perfect. And I can remember that, like, he lived in another city, and he was getting ready to move to Chicago, and he wanted me to move to Chicago with him. And I remember at the time talking to my counselor, and I said to my counselor, like, don't you think he's just wonderful, and he's this, and he's that, and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, on paper, he looked perfect, right? And I remember my counselor looked at me, and every time I would say to him, like, don't you think he's perfect, this, he would say, or he wants this. Because, like, he wanted me to move. He wanted me to do this. He had, like, a lot of conditions for how I should be. And he would say, what do you want? And I would say, well, I don't know. But, like, he wants me to move to Chicago, and he wants me to do this, and he thinks I should study that, and whatever. And my counselor would look at me, and he would go, or he would say, I used to always say go, like instead of say. My dad drove my dad crazy. But my counselor would look at me and he would say, what do you want? And finally I stopped and I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. He said, I'm saying it's important what you want. What you want matters. Be in control of your life for once. Love yourself enough to put yourself first. And then what I realized was I hadn't for a long time. I was putting everybody else first, I was just happy enough that somebody might love me and care about me on any kind of level, that if you did, that made me, I was like addicted to love as well. So if somebody loved me even a little bit or cared enough about me to try to change me or make me into somebody else or wanted me to do this, I was down for it, right? Because then that meant that you cared about me. Well, that's not healthy. That's not healthy love, When you're with somebody, you don't want them to necessarily change everything about who they are as a person. And I'm not talking about sobering up. I'm talking about fundamentally changing who you are as a person, So, and I also remember, like, we were talking and I said, and he's like this and I'm like that and blah, 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 blah. And don't you think that it's so great that we're like so in sync and we're so perfect and, we're like, we are like everything about us is like exactly the same. And I thought this was perfect, right? And my counselor looked at me and he goes, no, I don't think that's perfect at all. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, I think a really great relationship is when you have two independent people that meet in the middle and they share this part of their lives, but they have this side that's independent from the other person. Like they have their own life outside of that relationship. And I can remember just looking at him going, he's crazy. Because see, I was addicted to obsessive love. Like I wanted obsessive love. I wanted that. I wanted somebody to crave me and need me and have to have me, right? Those relationships and those people that I dated, they never lasted very long. Because then it got boring, once they had me, or once I had them, I was bored of it. I was like, well, this isn't really what I wanted, Like, I remember saying this to a friend of mine one time, like, okay, when the excitement's gone and you're just sitting there drinking coffee, staring at each other, how fun will it be? And I can, like, I've been that person in a relationship going, is this as good as it gets? And that's one of the things I will say about my husband is that he always, like, keeps it exciting, and keeps it, entertaining. Like, our relationship's always constantly evolving and changing and growing. And I'm thankful for that, we are constantly changing and evolving and growing. And so I think we kind of keep each other on our toes. We challenge each other and we, he makes me want to be a better person and I hope that I make him want to be a better person as well. But I don't bore of him, and I think that's because I don't want to change him and he doesn't want to change me today. And I don't need obsessive love from him. I want to know that he cares about me, he loves me, he's there for me if I need him and vice versa. But I don't want to be attached at somebody's hip. People comment a lot on my videos and they're always like, you and Alex live very separate lives, which in reality, if you saw us with the camera turned off, that's not the case. I mean, we spend a lot of time together, every single night. But I also realized years ago when I came back into the rooms of recovery and I started getting healthy that like I literally had been by his side all the time. A, because that had been what I was trained to do in past relationships. B, because I didn't trust anybody. And C, because I was like, I have to be with him all the time, right? And I can remember one time Alex said to me, like in our early dating years, he was like, you don't even give me the chance to miss you because we're always together. And he was like, but like, getting to miss somebody and getting excited to see them is a really important part of a relationship. And I, at that time I was like, that's hurtful. Why would you say that to me? That you don't get to miss me and because that means you don't want to spend the time that I'm offering with you. No, he wanted to miss me. He wanted to get excited to see me. But we were seeing each other so much from like day one that we never really had that with each other, And I look back and I'm like, he was so completely right. At 24 and I was 36, he was completely right. Because he had healthy relationships the majority of his time growing up that he had witnessed, but I didn't. I saw a lot of unhealthy relationships. And so, I had seen people that obsessively loved one another, and self-love is what we need, okay? Like, I don't know that I need to have that kind of obsessive love over somebody. And today, I love my husband very, very much. I think you guys know that. I say it in all my videos. I talk about our marriage and things like that. But I also know, having gone through what I went through and the counseling that I have received and the work that I've done on an evaluation and inventory, right? That if tomorrow my husband was not in my life for whatever reason, I would be okay. Like, maybe not immediately, but I would be okay eventually. In past relationships, I literally could not imagine my life without that person. Like, I was like, if they were ever gone from my life, I would just cease to exist. Like, I don't even know what I would do. That's not healthy. That is not healthy, okay? to greatly miss somebody, to grieve the loss of somebody, whether you break up with them or they die or whatever happens or they pass away. I don't usually say die. That was weird that I said that. Of course, that's normal, right? But to not be able to ever imagine your life without that person is not healthy. And I can remember in our counseling, our marriage counseling, when I finally kind of got to that point, and then I was like, I know that if Alex and I don't make it, I will be okay. Therefore, I choose to have him in my life. Like, that's powerful, right? When you realize that you choose to have somebody in your life. And then what I realized was my friends, everybody in my support network, you know, my sponsor, everybody that I have in my life is there because I choose for them to be there. They're there because I love them and I want them to be in my life, right? And I'm in their life for the same reasons, I hope. Not because, you know, I grew up thinking that I had to have this in my life and, you know, got it and then was like, now I don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? And that's why today I think I have healthier relationships in my life than I did in my past. I had unhealthy relationships in my life, even in early sobriety I did, you know? Friendships and romantic relationships, just unhealthy relationships because I didn't know how to stand up for myself and realize that it's okay for me to spend time alone. It's okay for me to not be hanging on to somebody 24 hours a day, and that, you know, not just in getting sober, love is not enough, but love is not enough all the time. Like, I don't need to, like, to feel it and know that somebody loves me is one thing, but to, like, have to, like, get verbal confirmation and just, like, constantly, I don't need that today. Because I trust it. Like, when somebody says it to me, I trust it and I know it. And I also know today one thing that has completely made the difference for me is that I am lovable. Like, today I know I'm lovable. I'm a good person, you know, and I deserve to be loved. I didn't know that in the past. And I think I thought to myself, based on growing up a lot, well, if I was really, you know, that lovable, then somebody wouldn't have drank that much, you know, instead of, like, being able to spend time with me or do this or do that. But I know that to not be true today. You know what I mean? I know that, like, my mom did the best that she could do, given the circumstances that she was given as an active alcoholic. And I don't believe that she loved drinking more than I did. That's not true. I do believe that she loved drinking more than I did at that time, from a kid's point of view. But I didn't understand active alcoholism. So understanding active alcoholism, I don't believe put the lasso of truth around her, given the opportunity. Does she love alcohol more than her son? No, I don't believe that she did. But I don't know that she knew what to do with it. And I think I carried that feeling, that emotion, that misunderstanding into my adulthood, and I allowed it to identify adult relationships in my life without ever really growing up. And when we go into relationships and we say we carried baggage in the relationship, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Not just some kind of, like, bad breakup that we had in the past. You know, like, it's that kind of stuff that really does us damage in relationships. So I don't know. Let me know if you guys relate to that at all. That was a really great meditation. And I love you guys. Don't forget to go check out my merch shop. It's listed below. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.